Afternoon. I think we are live now. Yes, a lovely, lovely afternoon coming to you live as the Happiness Tribe. Lovely Sunday and lovely to see the beautiful ladies here. And we have one who is aging from backwards. She's now threatening the 18-year-olds.
That
And
would be you, Miss Kim.
she is looking so good. God
Thank,
bless.
thank you, Miss Paula. I was waiting to see where that one was going to land.
Well, thank you, listeners. This is the Happiness Tribe where we giggle, have fun, talk about life issues, and celebrate life together. So, Miss Kim, your usual Happiness Tribe Sunday host, with her co hosts, and I'll just pass the mic to them as they introduce our very exciting topic for the day. Thank you. Over to you, Miss Paula.
Well, thank you so much, Miss Kim. Thank you so much. Blessed day to everyone near and far. My name is Marjorie. Call me Paula. I'm coming to you from the beautiful country of Belize in Central America. I'm a part of the Happiness Tribe. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. And today's theme that we're going to be discussing is poor boundaries, the energy drain. We look forward to the discussion. We know that this is something that impacts our lives both on a personal level and on a professional level. But before we proceed, let us introduce the rest of our team members. We would start with Sister Yodit and then Dr. Gladys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Miss Paula, and thank you, Miss Kim. Good afternoon, everybody. It's afternoon here in Habaroni, Botswana, located in Southern Africa, for those of you who may not have heard of us before. I'm very excited to be here to discuss this very important subject, boundaries. Yes, looking forward to the conversation. Over to you, Dr. Gladys.
Good day, everyone. I'm Dr. Gladys Spalding. I'm actually coming from Atlanta, Georgia. I'm a native New Yorker. However, I reside in Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm really excited about this topic today because I think all of us encounter it at some point in our life, and it's just a matter of how we deal with them. So, over to you, Miss Kim.
Thank you, Dr. Gladys. I actually don't want to steal her voice, and I see she is so ready to get on this topic. Over to you, Miss Paula.
Thank you so much. And yes, this is a topic I'm really interested in discussing, especially as women. Some of the things that we encounter throughout life, both internally in our personal lives and in our professional settings. And so a lot of times as women, we encounter things that people, especially men, let me be very direct, does not do not really understand this concept of boundaries sometimes. I've had some experiences, so we will discuss that today. However, let me start by saying again, the title of the podcast today is Poor Boundaries, the Energy Drain. However, the subtitle for this and the point of discussion here is that boundaries are not barriers, they are bridges to self respect. So it is the way in which we deal with, respond to those incidents of people crossing specific boundaries that determines the outcome. Having said that, I want to start with a small story, but before I do that, I'd like to involve and include our audience. If you are on LinkedIn, wherever you are listening to us from, if you can type in a statement, join the conversation, we would really, we see this as something enriching the conversation. This is the conversation amongst friends and family. We are a tribe here, and we would really love to hear your input about this concept of poor boundaries and the way that it can drain your energy when you're having to deal with it. Thank you all so much again for being here with us. So let me start. I've had a number of circumstances and situations, but I had a situation at my job when I was still in the corporate world where statements were made to me that were inappropriate. And at the time, I didn't really understand. I was much younger. I didn't understand that person that was engaging in this behavior didn't see it as crossing specific social boundaries on a professional level. So I actually took the point. For those who know me, know I'm very direct, and I like to go straight to the mountain, so to speak. I address this crossing of boundaries, professionalism. It was basically sexual harassment. That's how I took it. And so I addressed it directly. I wrote it up. I made a thing about it, and then discovered when conversations to mitigate the situation arose was that the person engaged in this behavior didn't see anything wrong with it. Now, I'm sure that there are other women in this discussion and probably even men, because this is not unique just to women that have encountered this, especially in a professional setting, in a corporate setting. How do you deal with it? What does that look like? And what does the discussion entail in terms of what is poor boundary management or not understanding what the appropriate boundaries are? I'd like to start with Sister Yodit because Sister Yodit worked in a very structured environment. Sister Yodit, at any point when you were working, were there any rules, regulations, parameters from a corporate setting that really delineated what behavior was appropriate in what environment? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Paula. Um, it's an interesting conversation, and your question, I think when it comes to a corporate environment, there are rules and policies for just about everything. So there are guidelines that should govern behavior. But what I find is that sometimes what is written is not sufficient. So I'll give you an example. There may be guidelines around what is appropriate and inappropriate in terms of sexual harassment, where and how you can and cannot touch individuals. But I don't know if it goes far enough. So, for example, um, if you're sitting at your desk and there isn't a desk between yourself and a male colleague, and your chairs are brought together, if you can try and visualize that, and you end up in a situation where your knees are touching, and this is done intentionally by the male colleague, that's completely inappropriate. But I doubt very much that there's anywhere where it's actually written to say that you shouldn't do this. In other words, I don't know if the policies that are in place go to that granular level to say what is not okay. And maybe because it is assumed, to your point, Ms. Paula, some people may not see it as a problem to come and casually put their arm around you, a male to a female. They may not see anything wrong with it whatsoever. And depending, what part of the continent you're from, there are parts of the continent where even men will put their arms around another man, and it's extremely harmless. There's nothing wrong with it. But in a corporate environment, especially, there could be something very wrong with that, even if it was not meant in the way that it looks. So my worry always is, Ms. Paula, as much as we've got policies that are supposed to govern the way we behave, the way we dress, the way we speak, some of it cannot be captured adequately, and therefore it's not exercised. And then on the flip side, well, maybe not the flip side, but the other part of this for me that's important is if policies don't cover, and there have been incidents of sexual harassment where, and it could happen these days, it can happen to men, it can happen to women, where a man feels like he's being sexually harassed by a woman. And it's not adequately covered within the governing policies. There's nothing wrong with raising it and saying that we need to change this. We need to capture it in a way that makes everybody feel safe. These policies are not the 10 commandments. We can change them. And I think sometimes there's fear in pushing back to say this policy is inadequate. I don't know if I've covered the entire question, Ms. Paula, but yes, there are policies. I'm not sure if they go far enough. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sister Yodit. And you did answer the question. It leads to additional questions. But before we move on to the additional questions, Dr. Gladys, you're in an institutional setting. What are some of the instances that you think or have seen or even have experienced where you think boundaries, where the person was expressing, poor boundary management or whatever? Can you help talk to us about that for those who may not necessarily be in a corporate setting, but are in an institutional setting? What does that look like?
Absolutely. I had a situation one time where a colleague actually gained access to my office in my absence. I mean, they actually office. They claimed that they were looking for some type of manual to order to get supplies inside some type of book from a vendor or something. And I'll be honest with you, it raised the red flag for me because first of all, I would not enter a colleague's office without their permission. And it has to be because I'm looking for something and they would know exactly what, I'm looking for. And they would give me that so immediately it was a red flag. So I'm gonna tell you how I processed it though. Okay. It definitely was a red flag. And then I said, this is not my real estate. I do not own this. So there were things like I never kept anything personal inside my office, no images of my family, anything, because I looked at it as a place where I went to work. However, let me just say that definitely didn't sit well with me. And usually, when you see that type of behavior, you really need to address it because what ended up happening is snowballed into something more. Because this individual was able to get away with that, and I didn't. Somebody allowed him access. It could have been a custodial service worker. It could have been a tech person. It could have been, a supervisor. I have no idea how they gained access. However, it got to the point where they started taking liberties. And let me just say, I think that the lines are very clear. This was just a situation where those boundaries were intentionally crossed and they actually wanted to see how far they can go because it just kept escalating and it was a slow process. However, it did escalate. It got to the point where I had to actually file harassment charges. It wasn't just sexual harassment, it was professional harassment. There was a litany of things that I had to file because this person had crossed so many boundaries. And like I said, that initial crossing of the boundary, I should have addressed it then. It's just that because it just lingered in my head, like, there's something wrong with that. You just go because I was trying to figure out how they got the information. Oh, I went into your office, and it was like it was no big deal. Let me just say, I'm quite aware that this individual knew that they had crossed boundaries. Some people, I know, like Miss Yoda was saying, how there's nothing written, it's not always clear. This was clear. Okay, because it escalated. So that's why I say a lot of times when you're encountering these little small nudges, they're going to escalate into something big if you do not address them. And that's what ended up happening with me.
Wow. Wow. So that's a perfect example that crossing, exercising poor boundary practices or crossing boundaries, whether they're clearly stated or implied, does produce negative effects across the board. I'm sure you probably felt bullied and even to a certain extent probably threatened your personal safety.
Well, let me tell you, not just that, I felt disrespected. That's why when it was mentioned, I felt so disrespected. And I'm gonna be honest with you, the bottom line was there was a lack of respect because when you allow people to cross those boundaries, it comes down to they're going to start disrespecting you. They're going to be doing things that you don't find respectful. And that's exactly what it ends up being. It's a lack of respect for who you are. And if you allow it, so it's like you have to demand that respect. And that's what I had to do. And let me just say, when I made another thing is when you are filing these grievances and you want to advance them to someone that you think, let's say in my case, HR, who you think can make a difference, that was another thing. I felt more comfortable going to a Black woman. Thank goodness there was a Black woman there that I could go to because I really felt like the Caucasians that were there that were male were not going to advance my grievance. So I was very happy to have that individual in place who higher level. Now, let me just say that also, now HR, like they are concerned about the employee. They're going to stick with the management. They're not trying to get sued or anything. However, from what I understand, they may have given him like a training course or something like that, and how to, not invade someone's space or what have you. I don't know all the particulars, but from what I understand, that's usually what the process is. But I'm not privy to that, But I just want to say that's another thing when you're trying to advance these grievances. You need someone who's going to be an advocate for you, who's going to, help you, because that could be difficult when you have a situation like that and then you're not getting any response to it. That makes it worse. It becomes very stressful because then you're wondering how much further is this individual going to go. That's another thing. So I'll leave that there.
Thank you so much. And that lends us to the discussion, moving into the discussion of diversity in the workplace, diversity inside, intentional diversity in any kind of institutional or organizational or even government setting. Because imagine if the person that was doing this was your boss or your boss's boss and was male and was dominant in the institution. It would just lend itself to a whole series of other events that can really put you or anyone in a position to lose your job. But we're gonna park that there now. Thank you so much, Dr. Gladys. Ms. Kim, you're an entrepreneur. You're a serial entrepreneur, and you are of your organizations and your businesses. Have you ever encountered someone that's exercising poor boundary intelligence or social decorum, or is doing something that is just less than acceptable or adequate, or is disrespectful, to Dr. Gladys's point? How do you handle that as a small business owner? How do you manage it? What does that look like?
Thank you, Miss Paula. And it's actually, you cannot imagine, especially when we're running a huge project, our staff turnover. There are times that we're on a huge project and the project needs to start ASAP before you're onboarding the team. And you're onboarding, suddenly you have a turnover of 60, 70 employees, and these are teenagers, and these are not people you know pretty well. We've not had time. So one of the rules, and then I've actually been accused even by my mentors of being super friendly. And the more I researched about that, I said, I'm not going to change who I am. Because I'm not gonna. I don't know how to operate like that. I eat with my staff. We laugh, we giggle, and it can be so difficult for them to know. We can smile with Miss Kim, we joke, but when it comes to work, it's got to be done. So what I do is I'm very, very clear with my onboarding systems that are within the staff manual guide. It's there. So we get those, the policies are there, and I make sure, especially when I see some little tendencies, it's those little things like your staff will call you 9 p.m. to tell you something, it's not an emergency. And then it also starts, I try to guard myself because I can get emotionally attached with staff personal issues. So what I do is I support, and then I refer them to social workers, because you want them to be mentally healthy, but you don't want to get so good, because there could be a compromise when it comes to work. When constantly I know you're dealing with this issue. I'm pretty reminding myself there's work to be done, and I can't be able to save everyone. So the strictness, then obviously the constant training, because humans are humans, they will forget. And I've seen instances where staff bullied me, your own staff bullying you, where they'll do things that are super mean to you. And so it can get very complicated, especially you're running a small organization, interacting with them every day. And because you smile and sometimes take them out fast, you giggle, you sometimes drop them home, then they assume you're friends. And you interact with their families, their children, they come and tell you when they have personal issues. So it's a constant struggle. But I think for me, what has worked best is the training. So I keep on training and I keep on reminding them the staff guidebook. And then I keep on, like, if there are deadlines have to be met. We're not going to do the stories of you knew this was happening. No, there was work to be done, and work has to be done. And I set the tone, especially when they're pretty new within the organization, where they get to know she's friendly, we can laugh, but if you, I'm going to get that warning letter. We will laugh and you'll get the warning letter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Actually, thank you. Brought a different layer to this discussion as well. Because the next question that we had, which is a great segue, is in this age of communalism, where a core culture or a business culture is not hostile, or the leadership working towards reducing the hostility or stress in a structured environment. And it's, we can go to ball games, hang out on the weekends, where you have a more inclusive culture where people associate on the job, outside of the job. How do we create a solid line of demarcation as to what is appropriate and what is not? Obviously, to your point, Miss Kim, we're human beings, and sometimes we just forget we're just being human. But how do we, in leadership position, inside of an organization, inside of a structured environment, how do we create a healthy family-like structure inside of that environment and still maintaining or clearly delineate boundaries, right? Appropriate boundaries. I'll start with you, Sister Yodit, because this is something that is so, you're one of the ones that keep us on track in terms of what needs to happen inside of this tribe, and and behavior, and how important behavior is and how it impacts the entire team. So I'm asking you this question specifically to open this side of the conversation in the need to, following the need to have a structured environment. How do we define or delineate those boundaries in a way that doesn't offend but still maintains a communal setting, if I may? That's the best I can think of. Please.
Thank you, Ms. Paula. It's an interesting question, and it's interesting because I think sometimes, in our quest to develop a culture that is communal, as you call it, we want to be a family. We sometimes create a situation where those boundaries or those lines become blurred. So I think, and when you're in a corporate setting, it's even more difficult. When you're in a small team, we're a small team. So if Miss Kim calls me and it's quite late, I will know that maybe there's a problem. So I'd be happy to answer the phone and to have a conversation. But we have developed respect enough for each other to know that, we all have families. There are certain things that we can and cannot do, etc. And so I suspect it's easier when you're in a smaller group, because it's easier for me to say, no, I can't do this right now. Let me talk to you later, or send a message. But when it's a corporate setting, it becomes very challenging. And I think here, I'm especially thinking about young people, a young person joining a corporate environment for the first time, and they're not quite sure. So your boss calls you at 6 o'clock in the morning. As a young person just entering the business, you'll probably take the call because you don't want to create any negative impressions, right? Um, and so to that, so having gone through this process where you'll accept calls at any time because it's your boss calling, and getting to the point where you're like, no, but this is wrong. I can't continue to do this because it's now cutting into my personal time, it infringing on family time, etc. I need to put a stop to it. So my advice to all the young people who are listening is you need to set the tone from the very beginning. And I think this goes to what Dr. Gladys was saying, where if you don't take care of it immediately, it's going to continue and it's going to snowball. And you find yourself in a situation where you're responding to calls at 11 p.m. at night and getting on your laptop to do work because your boss is called to instruct you. Now, people will excuse it in many ways. Some will say, well, you're a leader in the organization and work needs to get done. And I say blah, 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 because work needs to get done. But when you get to that point where you're exhausted, you're stressed, you're emotionally overwhelmed, work will not get done. So, my advice is you need to set the tone from the very beginning and draw those boundaries very clearly. I cannot accept. And I had a colleague, a friend, who was very clear, and I love that about her. Very clear. Don't call me after this time. I don't care what's burning. Unless somebody's dying or dead, don't call me. And I think those are the types of boundaries that you have to set because unfortunately, it becomes abused. Almost, more often than not, it's abused. So I would try to make it very clear from the very beginning. And if somebody crosses the line, you immediately remind them that nope, my working hours are from here to here, from this time to this time. If there is an emergency, please let me know, maybe by message, and then I'll call you back. It has to be very clear because it's definitely not written in the policies anywhere that you're supposed to take a call at any point in time. So that's it. It takes a bit of bravery, especially when you're faced with a boss who's not necessarily kind or thoughtful, because that's the other thing. It leads to that question. And yeah, I think that's all I want to say about that one, Ms. Paula. We need to start from the very beginning of our interactions to set the tone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sister Yodit. I appreciate your feedback. One of the things that happens, our team, for instance, the Happiness Tribe, we're located in very vastly different time zones, right? Our calls in the morning, our meetings are like 2 o'clock, 2:30 p.m. your time in South Africa. That's 6 a.m. my time in Belize. So there are in I've said to Ms. Kim, listen, we're building a business, we're building something here. So if it's something that's important, it's an emergency, call me. Ms. Kim has called me at 1 o'clock in the morning, my time. I answer the phone because I'm aware of the time difference. That may be early morning, her time. And it's something that's emergent or something that's important that needs to get done. So there's an understanding and a discussion up front. I remember the other night, I sent something to Miss Kim, or I sent a voice clip or something. I completely forgot about the time because we have such relationships. It went beyond me. And she said it's 2 o'clock in the morning. I was like, oh, my bad. Hey, I apologize. Disregard. We can discuss this later. So I'm saying that to say that one of the ways to handle this or to handle circumstances and situations that might not necessarily either feel comfortable or is out of the ordinary is to individually set parameters, right? One of the things that I do, I'm a farmer. We have young people come to the farm to do internships, to do work, to learn. And one of the things that I do with each cohort, and I do it every day, you're not allowed to take liberties with other people. You must ask permission. Even if you want to hug someone, ask their permission. Can I give you a hug? Right? So this is one of the things that I do with young people, and I'm very clear about that. I'm very direct and transparent in terms of that. And I address this boundary issues immediately in each and every cohort. And I make a conscious effort to remind them at the beginning of the week, we are going to respect each other. If there's something that you need to speak or say or do with another individual, you need to ask permission for that. Don't take any liberties with other people. You don't want people to treat you any kind of way without your permission. We treat people the way we want to be treated. So this is one of the things that I do with young people, and it seems to work very well. And whenever I see something that's teetering of the edge, because we young women and men, we get teenagers, and you know what it's like being a teenager. And I would stop them immediately if they say something that I think is sexist or it's aggressive, and I hear it. I pull the individual engaging in the behavior to the side. Whether the person receiving it perceives it as such is not I'm not concerned about that. I'm concerned about how I perceive it as the leader in that particular setting, and I address it immediately. And you only get 3 times to do this, and it escalates. And after the third time, you have to leave. You're just out of the program. Period. It's not even negotiable. Right. So I'm bringing this to the table because it's taking personal responsibility for yourself, for the environment, and the ripple effect that either your action or your inaction, to all of our points, when something is going drastically wrong, if it doesn't feel right, say something immediately. And if you're not sure what to say, speak to someone that you can trust. Google it, pull up your employment. Most companies, corporate settings, small business may not, but I would advise every business, if you're a leader, to have an employee workbook, right? Pull it up, look at the rules, see if it covers this area, jot it down, put the date, the time, the person involved, go to someone, right? So that instance, Miss Kim, go ahead. You look like you have something you'd like to add. You have the floor.
You actually just got me. You reminded me of some spaces that I myself have found myself going overboard and not respecting people's boundaries. And that happens especially when we're talking about the cultural differences. So I naturally like working with men, and I don't have this thing of maybe where I come from. We don't have this. Yeah, traditionally in Botswana, there's that thing of a traditional ceremony. You might find there's a specific sitting area for men, a specific sitting area for women. But it's where I come from, we don't have that. We just mix and mingle, and it's something that I had to learn. But then it goes so like when we're doing this wedding celebrations, things like that. Like when we're paying dowry, it's very restricted. We actually sit on the ground, and there's a specific order. So what I do is that those things I try to do some research or find out when I have to be in a community that I don't understand how things work. But in this particular instance, I forgot to ask. So my first encounter in Zanzibar, I didn't know women don't just go talking. Women don't shake men hands because it's the Muslim culture. And and for me, I'm a hugger. I will shake hands. I will do high five with a guy that I've just met. and sitting with they're very strict with those rules on what women do and what men do. So especially they don't shake hands. That is like a taboo. You don't shake hands with a Muslim man, and you don't just hang out with them, like.
Wait a
And
minute. Wait, Miss Kim, wait. I'm sorry to jump in your throat. So you're not, it's not culturally accepted to shake hand with Muslim men? But
no,
I was in Los Angeles with Sunni Muslims and they shook my hand. I'm sorry.
but that's you're in a first world. This is in Zanzibar.
Oh, okay.
I,
Okay.
And
sus-
also
So
I
this is a
remember,
suspect as
practice.
well, if I may jump in, Miss Kim, every time you speak about your experience in Zanzibar, I'm surprised because it sounds so strict. I mean, there are Muslim men here in Botswana, and I've never heard that. In fact, in Botswana, you're expected to shake someone's hand. Now, I've never asked whether, okay, no, let me not complicate us right now. But you're expected to shake somebody's hand. So Zanzibar just sounds super strict. I think we're gonna have to sit down for a induction before we go there. Really?
okay,
Imagine.
so
Go ahead,
uh-huh.
Miss Kim. Go ahead.
They're very kind, they're very polite, they understand if you don't know. So for me, it's actually even those things of how I dress. That one, yes, I'm very cautious. I will be all dressed up, I'll be all covered. It doesn't mean that everyone does that, everyone that gets into Zanzibar. But for me, I just feel it's disrespect for me to be in a Muslim community. I have my sleeves out, I'm wearing my mini skirts. No, I give them all the respect they want, and I will not talk when men are talking, and I will allow, because obviously even a small child can tell you something, which, yeah, I think also remember Islamic, I think it just like religion, where we have Catholics, we have Baha'is, we have Buddhists. So seems like different Muslims have their different way of life. There could be a lot that's universal, but it's something. I'll be cautious walking along the beach in my usual bikini. I'll be careful where which part of Zanzibar am I at. It doesn't mean it's tourists do it, but so remember now. First, I'm black, I'm Kenyan, I'm speaking Swahili. So
So
it just feels odd. You need to
you
understand.
can't wear a bathing suit,
I
or you
I
wouldn't.
go to private beaches. I don't go to the public beach where I mean in most cases, and I'm known. I actually my nickname in Zanzibar is Grandma, which is it's respect. Yes.
So you can't
The,
have grandma walking around in a bikini.
In
No,
a
I
bathing
hear
suit.
you.
and and remember, I work with university students or graduates.
Yeah.
So these are young boys that are now seeing me at the beach, and then I'm in class the following day. No way. So, and actually, that's where I draw my boundaries. I'm very private when I'm in Zanzibar. I will not, I just won't hang out anywhere. It's a very small, I like a very small community. So chances are I'll go to a club and find my students. So I just behave.
Miss
And
Kim,
it's polite. They're nice. It's not a big ask. But I ride the motorbikes, which is, I think it's only a naughty thing I do.
Miss Kim,
Yeah.
thank you
Yes, ma'am.
so much for sharing this with us because I never really thought about poor boundaries in terms of cultural awareness. For instance, a lot of us travel. We meet other people in the United States, in the West. There is a lot of people that come around. And I think when we live in those developed economies, in those developed environments, we never consider boundary. We never consider the cultural norms, the stuff that we take for granted as crossing particular boundaries. As soon as you brought that up, I started thinking, now what do I do when I go to Saudi Arabia or United Arab Emirates? That's deeply religiously, it's those are religious societies, correct? They have very strict parameters and rules of engagement. So I never really thought about boundaries in terms of respecting culture, the cultures of other people when you're in particular environments. That's just like here. I come home, and when people come, they come to visit my mom. This is my mother's house, and I'm requesting that people remove their shoe, and they're looking at me like I have five heads. Like, why? Nobody does that here. So for me to be asking people to remove their footwear, it's like absolute insanity. It's been an uphill battle with people. But I didn't grow up in Belize, but I'm from Belize, but I didn't grow up in Belizean culture. But my grandmother, at my grandmother's house when I was a kid here in Belize, everyone had to remove their shoe at the door on the veranda. So it's different. And I didn't consider my request as something outlandish or unacceptable. But I'd like to move, having said that, I'd like to move this conversation into the personal environment, personal boundaries. And I'll start with a little story. So there's an elder that was a matriarch of her family, and she's now way up in age in her 80s. And she still gets her retirement money. She has someone that's taking care of her. And this person was taking her money and doing what she wanted with it instead of doing what the elder required with her own money. Would any of you consider that poor boundaries? Is that considered theft, or does the person taking care of her have the right to access those funds? And is it okay for her to spend the money on what she wants as opposed to what the elder want? These are personal circumstances and situations, and I'm sure it's probably different wherever we go. Again, from a cultural perspective. So I'm posing the question to the team. I'll start with Dr. Gladys. Dr. Gladys, do you think there's something wrong with this family member that's taking care of this elder doing what she wants with the money?
I think that's more common than people think. I know, my grandmother prior to her passing, there were, certain individuals that were handling her financial affairs, and they were actually dipping in and doing what they wanted to do for themselves. So of course that is an issue, but and I say it's a very common thing because they probably figure this individual is an elderly person. They don't really know what's going on. There was nothing wrong with my grandmother's faculties or anything. This is just something that people do, and yes, that is a problem. That is, that's poor boundaries. You shouldn't be doing that, or and if you're going to do something like that, you should get permission, But I've heard that story many times from many people when it comes to the elderly. That is a very common practice. Yes.
You know what really surprised me when the elder brought this to me? And I said to her, listen, I'm willing to take you to the police station to report this because, as far as I'm concerned, it's theft. And you know what the elder said to me? The elder said, listen, I have someone who's taking care of me and she's doing a good job. And so, yes, she's stealing from me. And yes, it upsets me because I worked hard for that money and I'm not getting the things that I need. But she's doing a good job and she's a family member. So I don't want to make any waves. Am I wrong? I was incensed by this. I was ready to go haul the woman out and drag her down to
But
the police station and handcuff her myself.
yeah, but
But
that's not uncommon. And let me just say the
yeah,
reason why is because they're vulnerable and they're afraid that they're not going to have anyone to take care of them. So they put up with that and they don't report it. And it's because they don't want to be left alone. They don't want to just be put in a nursing home if somebody's caring for them. So that's usually what the situation is.
unbelievable. I know that a lot of elders are being put in nursing homes, but in the developing nations, we don't put our elders away. We don't have the facilities. That's the first thing. And the second thing, culturally speaking, it's like taboo to just put your grandmother, your mother in an institution. And I'm about life. I mean, you guys know that I'm taking care of my mom. I cannot imagine. I would have to be with no arms, no legs, can't talk for me to agree to that. I can't. But I brought it up because I thought, for me, my thought was, this isn't just poor boundaries. This is like thievery and it's not right. And so, sometimes I can be very black and white and critical in my assessment of circumstances and situations. But when the elder responded that way to me, I had to back up. I was like, okay, I have to respect your boundary, you know. But I brought it up to the team in this discussion because I think it's timely. Miss Kim, you have something you want to say? I can see it coming of you. Go ahead.
Yeah, but the party is on with the monkeys and the dogs. It's just too noisy. Let me give them a few minutes. But I just wanted to add, this is the unfortunate bit is our kids will take us to those homes.
Oh,
We didn't take our parents, but our kids will.
so then we need to create the kind of homes that will allow us to choose the ones we want that are best for us. How about that? This boundary thing is really, really a circumstance and situation. There's another story I want to tell people come to me. I don't know what it is. I must look like Mother Teresa or something. I don't know. Someone else came to me a few weeks ago, actually. Now, this is a circumstance with her and her husband. This is a husband. She's married to this man. And this man wants to have sex every day. She doesn't. I'm sorry. Hey, boundaries. Is she supposed to allow it just because she's married to him? Sorry, somebody help me here. Hey, this is life. People go through stuff.
You're crossing the line. Now you
Paula.
have boundaries.
No, but
In the
also
African
because
sector, we can't talk about these things. I can't even say the SEX word on a podcast.
on a
Yeah.
podcast, no, but Miss Kim, it's a very interesting subject. And I think for a completely different podcast though, because it's and I really don't I do not want to say any more now. But
Do you
you
do you have
it's
the right to take what you think you deserve because you're married to me is what I want to know. That's all, a
no,
yes
you
or a
see,
no.
the reason it's important, especially, in the cultural context, right? So there's certain things, and Miss Kim, you know that when you're about to get married, and maybe even, some of the initiation rites of passage that girls are taken through, I suspect that, there's certain advice that you're given. When you're about to get married, there's certain advice that you're given by women who are already married. And I'm pretty certain that when it comes to satisfying your husband, the answer would be it doesn't matter whether you feel like it or not. You have to. So, yes. So and the reason I'm saying it's a completely different conversation, it needs a different podcast, is because women would probably think, um sorry, just excuse me for a minute. Okay. Uh, no, my daughter needs to get something. So I think, but my train of thought has been interrupted. But it's a very important conversation, and I think it's a difficult one for women who believe that, I'm independent, and I should be able to say, sorry about that, I should be able to put my foot down if there's something that I don't want to do. But from a cultural perspective, there's a very different way of thinking about this. And Miss Kim and I had an interesting conversation the other day, and I think, again, a subject for another podcast, is women who agree to be in polygamous marriages. Women who agree to be in polygamous marriages, one of the things that's taken care of when you have a co-wife, and I think this is something, because I did a essay about this when I was in school. I did some research, and in West Africa, polygamous marriages are advantageous, especially to women who are entrepreneurs, because if a woman is expected to get up and go to the market, she's not going to have time to do other things in the evening. She'll be too tired. So she can delegate that to her co wife. So I'm completely going off subject right now. But because Miss Paula asked that question, I thought maybe, responding to it from a cultural context. But speaking to women who are independent and fiercely independent, I'm certain that their responses will be very different. Thank you, Miss Paula. I think we've got subjects for a couple of other podcasts that would be interesting.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to throw the bomb in there, but I thought that's inappropriate. Why don't you just say no? And again, the response was, I can't do that. That's my husband and I thought. I'm raised in a different space. I'm sorry. So it's different for me completely. It would be mayhem. Let's not play about that. But Dr. Gladys, do you have anything you'd like to add to this discussion?
Well, first thing, I definitely respect the cultural perspective, but I also respect the quote unquote independent woman perspective as well. Because, let's say if the woman actually has something that's going on down there, I mean, female issues or something like that, or even if she, doesn't want to be bothered, I mean, nowadays, especially in the culture I'm in, women work, men work, so there's a lot of expectations of women, and that's, but that would be, to me, probably for a lot of women, very overwhelming to have to, I guess copulate every single night, So I'm just saying, that could be, a bit overwhelming after working and cleaning and doing whatever you do as a woman in my particular culture, So, but I do respect other cultures as well, but I think that, the culture I'm in, I think that, I think there has to be some type of agreement or some type of, consideration, of the type of work that you're engaged in, So yeah, so I think to each his own. If you agree with that, and that's what you want to do, you do it. If you don't, respect that individual if they don't want to, So that's my take on it.
It raises a
Thank
very interesting question, though. So, does it mean, or can we assume, that there are no boundaries within a marriage? And I think for me, that one, there has to be boundaries within a marriage, because you're two individuals. So there's certain things that you may not like, and that has to be respected and appreciated. And I think even within any cultural context where culture and tradition still is very important, there has to be respect for each other. And sometimes crossing boundaries is extremely disrespectful in some instances. And there's a debate, around whether or not uh, um how is it said? The English is leaving me. Whether or not a married man is capable of raping his wife. Or let me say it differently. If a man forces his wife to have sex and it's considered rape to many, to some it's not because he's married to her. So there's a very interesting debate around that, and it's about boundaries. It's about, this is something you cannot do. It doesn't matter whether we're married or not. So I don't know, Miss Kim, if you remember, there was a debate in Botswana about that, and I'm not sure. Of course, some men will say no, it's not rape. It cannot be considered rape because she's my wife. But a lot of women were saying it is rape. So, but now we're completely going off topic. At least I think we are. Miss Paula, over to you.
Actually, we're not, Sister Yodit. That's why I brought up the conversation, because the idea, the concept of poor boundaries runs the gamut, and it happens every day. And even in relationships, in marriages, there are boundaries, right? Um, and it really ultimately is about respect. But here is where I'd like to see us go with this. How do you build bridges over boundaries is the question. Because I was thinking, and like I said to lady, I said, you need to speak to your husband. You need to sit down and have a come to Jesus moment with him. Because who feels it knows it. In this case, who's feeling it ain't like it. They know it. And so what he's talking about, his need isn't the only need here. You also have needs. You are 50% of this relationship, right? So for me, because I said to her, go to the police. You know me, hey, I'm from the West. That's where I was raised. She was like, I can't do that. That's my husband. And I thought, well, why are you telling me? If it's not working for you and it's an issue, why are you bringing it to me? And she said, because I trust you. And I know you're going to be honest. And I said, I'm being real honest. If it was me, I'd go to the police. Sometimes this personality of mine gets me in trouble because I can be very rigid sometimes, but I'm learning. And as she started breaking it down, a younger one, she started breaking it down. I said, you need to speak to him, to have a conversation with him. You're right. He's your husband. Build a bridge over this. You guys can get closer about it. If you've never mentioned anything to him and he thinks you're just laying there because what, you're dead, then you need to explain to him that you're uncomfortable and that you can't perform at the level of his expectation because you're uncomfortable. Be honest. And so I'm saying this is really our key, not to just bulldoze anyone, but to have a conversation. Find a way to build a bridge over the circumstance, over this boundary, so that we're connecting with each other in a way that's healthier, right? Open our mouths. We have to have the courage. Why are we suffering in silence, especially for women? And I'm speaking for women specifically because I'm a woman and I understand what that feels like. I'm not saying men aren't suffering as well. Please don't misconstrue my statement. I'm saying it's a problem and we need to build bridges over this suffering by being honest, first with ourselves and then with the people that we're dealing with. So, that's my takeaway. Is there anything else anyone else would like to add to this, team member?
I agree 100%, Miss Paula. To be honest, sometimes though, um, being honest can be difficult because you don't want to
Of
hurt
course.
someone's feelings. Yeah. So for me, and earlier, I can't remember who was speaking, but earlier I thought, you know, the way we raise our children is so important. It is absolutely critical. And I always wonder how single parents manage because it's very difficult. One of the things that you could do as you're raising your children is to teach them exactly that. Be honest and be prepared to have a conversation. Refuse to be quiet about things that bother you. And this has to be emphasized over and over again. Same thing with boundaries. I have specific boundaries that you do not and you should not cross as my child. For example, my daughter was just here because she needed to get something from my bag. I do not allow children to go into my handbag. It's just something that I think it's a very personal space. Do not go there without my permission. And it's something that I've said over and over again, and they know. Same thing with, my private spaces in the home. I do not expect my children to go in there without asking. And so you start this thing of setting boundaries from when they're little so that they understand. You cannot storm into the bathroom when I'm in there. God help you if you do, because you may see things you do not want to see and then claim that I traumatized you as a child. You know what I mean? So you need to set those boundaries from when they're very, very little. And I worry though, like I said, about parents who are raising their children alone, because it's a lot of work. So single parents, I take my hat off every time I'm alone with my children, because there's certain things that require a second voice and sometimes a third voice. And so I admire the mothers, especially. Botswana is a country where we have majority of households are single female led households, and so I worry about that and what it means as we raise our children and we see behavior that we would frown upon, but we're frowning upon it and judging it without understanding the circumstances of the parent. So there's a lot of work that we need to do, and it goes back to what's that beautiful saying? It takes a village to raise a child. When you're living in a situation where the minute I raise my voice against a child who's doing something wrong, but I don't necessarily know who that child is, I'll get reprimanded because it's none of my business. So it's difficult, but with boundaries, I think it is so important to start when they're kids, when they're babies. Actually, thank you, Miss Paula.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gladys.
Yeah, I just like to add something. I think that with technology, that has even blurred the lines even more. And let me give you an example of that. I say that in the sense of, you could be connected to people, let's say like on Facebook or something, and Facebook has made it where people can actually call you from Facebook. And I think it's disrespectful for someone to call you without engaging in a conversation with you, because these could be individuals. Like most of the people on Facebook are people that I grew up with. So I've known them probably from middle school, high school, what have you. But just because we are connected on Facebook, and furthermore, I haven't seen you in probably, I don't know, 30 years or something like that. That doesn't mean that it's okay for you to call me from Facebook. So I don't answer those calls because, first of all, I think it's disrespectful. I'm a married woman. We didn't have any type of conversation. What are you calling me for? That's the thing. And we haven't had any type of conversation. So I really think that is definitely disrespectful and crossing the line. That's crossing boundaries. So I don't like that. So I think technology, in from that aspect, has made it very easy for people to cross that line.
You have an absolute point, Dr. Gladys, and I tend to agree with you. But again, it goes right back to what is acceptable to you and how do you set the parameters and rules of engagement in your life, whether it's on a professional level, it's on a personal level. You have clear about what is acceptable and what is not. And we have to clearly be able to delineate that to whomever we're interacting with, right? One of the things that I think we have a problem with in this world is we are averse to pain. We don't want to feel pain. When it's people we care about, we tiptoe around circumstances and situations, and we prefer to suffer in silence than to be able to brave the pain of discomfort to say, listen, I'm not comfortable with this. And your behavior is making me feel some kind of way. And this is the reason why. And this is what we can or should do about it, right? Engage that conversation. At the end of the day, we need to own our person. And we need to hold ourselves to the highest standards of self-respect. Because once we do that, it's very difficult for us to accept disrespect from out of our sphere. So yes, to Miss Kim's point, when she's in Zanzibar, she understands the landscape. She prepares for it. She walks through, or she interacts with the landscape with a mind very intentional on maintaining her self-respect so that she doesn't get disrespected. And I'm not saying that it's your behavior that's attracting disrespect from people. Sometimes you're just minding your business. You don't even have to know them. But if we're mindful and we're intentional in the way that we conduct ourselves and we move through the different spaces in our lives, and we have to have the courage to be very honest and forthright about what that is. what it looks like and what is acceptable. It begins with us. And I believe we can change the conversation if we begin to take control of our spaces. That's why we're having this conversation. And in terms of what Sister Ye said, she said, it takes a village to raise a child. She's absolutely correct. It takes a village to raise a village, to be honest with you. And that's some of what's missing in our spaces. That's why we created the Happiness Tribe, where you can come and become a part of an environment where we can be open and honest with each other, and we can share our experiences and our perspectives, both on a professional level and on a personal level. The idea is for us to learn from each other, to develop strength from each other, and to be able to grow from these interactions. That's why we do this. That's why we're coming up on our 100th episode for the podcast that we've been doing for the past, what is it, year and a half, Miss Kim, almost 2 years now. Tell us about the Happiness Tribe, Miss Kim. Tell our audience why it's so important for them to join this community.
Because this is where we come and get our dose of happiness to keep us going throughout the week. So you better join us. We are open, collaboration and partnerships. Right now, we are running on One Stream Live, which has been sponsored by them. We can stream on 50 platforms. So it's sort of, we have our mini TV. Currently, we are streaming on about 18. We're almost close to 20 platforms. And we understand, obviously, as we discuss digital transformation, it's more critical than ever for us to take care of our personal development. Like what every speaker has alluded to, we're talking about boundaries, and the internet has sort of gotten the situation worse. I don't think I go for a day without somebody asking me out for a date, dinner, anything. And I'm a whole 50-year-old woman.
A beautiful 50-year-old woman. Don't get mad. You can't help who wants you. But hey, take a number, get in line, make an appointment.
And I think we need to have a podcast on men and how they should approach us. Because I think for me the most annoying thing is how you make a move on me, which makes me question what made you think that you can talk to me like that? That you can just ask me out? What happened to common decency? Get some decorum. There's a nice,
Boundaries.
some boundaries. There's a nice way of approaching a lady. So you can imagine I make a lot of noise everywhere, from WhatsApp groups, my status, my LinkedIn. I'm out there and I'm not going to stop because I believe in what I'm doing. We need to get our voice out. Okay, somebody says I should shut up.
No, 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 no. That's okay, because that segues us quite timely into discussing some of the things that the Happiness Tribes offer. So the Happiness Tribe is a community of people, and we all have different businesses, different institutions, not for profits, products that we're selling. I'd like to start by having Miss Kim speak about what she's offering now for adults and technology and how they can upskill. And Miss Kim, when you're done, 2 minutes. And when you're done, I'd like Dr. Gladys to speak about the product she now has on the market and where consumers can find it, how they can purchase it. And when when Dr. Gladys is done, I would like to have Sister Yodit speak briefly, 2 minutes, about her enterprise that she started and how you can reach out to her. So start with Miss Kim. Talk about, I know you're doing upskilling classes for adults and technology. Tell us about that. Tell the audience how they reach you, how they can participate, how they can purchase, get involved.
Thank you, Ms. Paula. And you'll also give me another minute to give a shout out. We have quite a number of comments on our LinkedIn.
That's okay. They're tribe
of the
members too.
Happiness Tribe now. Yeah, exactly. Just leave them alone and speak.
Go ahead, Miss Kim.
Okay. So yes, this is quite exciting because we have this program we call the Future Tech Ignite that was born out of the children we train, educators and parents asking, where can I come for a session? I also want to be a part of this digital transformation. Um, Obviously, it's not a nice to have thing anymore. It is a must have. Everybody must get some skills, and skills, we don't mean that everyone has to be a programmer. Everyone has to learn how to code. It is basics. Right now, we're seeing what's happening with cybersecurity, which is quite scary. So everybody needs to know, how do I safeguard even just my phone? What restrictions can I put there and make sure the attackers don't get on me? So we train on cybersecurity, digital transformation, digital marketing, and artificial intelligence. And of course, as one of my greatest passions being soft skills, we integrate with soft skills, which we discuss adaptability, emotional intelligence, communication skills, which a lot of what we're discussing here, it just takes me back to, yeah, it's communication. How am I communicating to others for them then to think that they can approach me? And when they approach me, what do I tell them without bruising every guy that comes on you? With marriages and stuff like that. I mean, you apply those skills everywhere. So we do creativity, critical thinking, collaboration, problem solving, and communication, adaptability, emotional intelligence, which it's right now, AI is solving a lot of problems, and AI is creating millionaires every day. People are also losing job. And the best way to make sure you don't lose your job is upskill, because the person who's taking your job is somebody who has skills in tech. So we have the first one that's coming up. It's on 1st of August. We are so excited. That is next week, Friday. The Happiness Tribe members, you all have the vouchers. You've got to be there. It will be from 9 a.m. Very nice lunch on. And then in the afternoon, we're going to have fun, which is marketing. So people will be streaming live the whole session from morning to evening. So we would love to have Beneathis come join us virtually, showcase Beneathis. We have a lot of people that would appreciate that. And also, since we'll be streaming live, it's an opportunity for you to network with others who would want to trade with you. We have a lot of brilliant products we're packaging in Botswana. We have Mopani worm. It's actually a worm that we package. It's a delicacy here. We have our traditional vegetables that we've started packaging and looking for export market. We have siswa, which is grounded meat. I think I don't know, Miss Yodit, but I think that's a unique thing for Botswana and South Africa. And I don't even think it's in South Africa. I think it's a Botswana thing. It is so delicious. So now we are packaging and getting ready for the market. So we will be able to help people link up. Look for Miss Paula, who is extremely well networked, who is a strategist. She can help you get your product to the other side of the world. We need beneaths. And by the way, my daughter stole my beneaths. Boundaries, Miss Yodit, boundaries. She took my beneaths and ran with it.
That means we got to order some more. So,
Yeah.
Ms. Kim, how do we get in contact with you if we want to secure a spot? How
Okay.
do
So
we reach you?
you can reach me on. We are onboarding a lot of people today. We signed up people who just reached up on our WhatsApps, on our social media platforms. You can get us on LinkedIn, Destination Imagination Africa, or Miss Kim's platform. And also you can email me. You can WhatsApp me, which is +267 766 48400, and I will help you on board. Get on the platform. We left with very few slots, so join us. Do it sooner. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Can
Thank
I
you
read a few
so much.
messages?
Yes, you may.
We have beautiful messages, and we appreciate you, our Happiness Tribe members. I see Joseph Kielo. He says, I like this discussion as it reminds us about the philosophy of Africa Ubuntu that unites us for a common humanity. Don't I love that? This is
Yes.
something I shout from the mountaintop. We have our way of life. We have boto. We call it boto in Botswana. Hey, Miss Yodit is so waiting to correct me because there are words that can't come out. Boto.
I think you said it fine. Well, I think you said it fine. Yeah.
So they have Leslie. Leslie is a big fan of the Happiness Tribe. She says
So is the
boundaries
dog.
boundaries that are shared in advance take away the possibility of undelivered communication or expectation. That is deep, Leslie. I love it. And she's also says people do adapt to different culture, as they should. I go to Rome, I should do what the Romans are doing. Then Leslie says again, I've been teaching women in the US for the last 20 years to not hug, but rather shake hands, to wear business casual clothes rather than being flamboyant, to speak in bullet points rather than telling the whole story, to completely eradicate from their vocabulary the word sorry, wish, and just. Oh, interesting. All of this to match the context of business so they will be heard. You know, I love this, Leslie, and it's when we're discussing this, I remembered how part of our training staff, sometimes you can train people everything, but it's an ongoing process. I've had my team member say, when you called me, I was in the toilet. I have a running tummy. I can't come to work. I'm diarrheaing. Really? That is too much information. We don't need to know that. So, I mean, where are your boundaries? And are you respecting mine if you have to tell me that I was in the toilet? No. I was taking a shower. What am I supposed to do with that information?
They're your children. They think you're their mother now.
Just because I'm granny, I'm a posh granny. And I have my boundaries. Oh, the party is really on.
Thank you, Miss Kim. Thank you so much. Sister Yodit, tell us about your business and how they can get in contact with you.
Sure. Thank you, Ms. Paula. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I'm deeply passionate about people and development, and especially people who've been marginalized, left out, young people, because I feel that they need a lot of support. But my background, therefore, has been in community development and social impact programs. I sincerely believe that we are capable of leaving this earth better than how we found it. Sometimes we just need to be told how. And so I focus my attention on supporting private sector companies, those who are able and capable, and most of them are because they're making money, to see how they can support the communities that they're working in by helping them to build a portfolio of programs that give back to the community, but also help them with their reputation within the environment that they're in. I also work with the nonprofit sector or civil society, trying to support organizations that are looking for support, whether it's donations or just program support to help build the enterprises or the NGOs that they're trying to develop. All of which, they're trying to respond to specific questions. And environmental conservation is one such area that I have a deep passion for, and currently working with an organization that's looking to do good here in Botswana. So my company is called Malada. Malada means a new dawn, a new day. And you can reach me at Yodit, so it's Yodit at malada.co.bw. Thank you, Miss Paula.
Thank you so much. And Miss Kim and Sister Yoda, please put down your contact information in our LinkedIn chat so that our audience who's missed it can actually know where to go to find you and know how to get in contact with you. Dr. Gladys, we love beneath these. I don't want to get involved in this because I'm traumatized. Part of it is my fault, but I'm sad about the stuff.
I'm working on it. Okay. Yeah.
I
No,
appreciate
yeah.
it. Go
So I
ahead.
know that, my area is science and I'm very much involved in science and I love science, but everything is related to science. And one thing I would like to say is that I developed a product called Beneath These. It's an undergarment. And the reason why I developed it, first of all, I'm from New York City. So fashion is a very strong part of the culture. I just want to say that. And I also want to say that my favorite movie is The Devil Wears Prada. And there's a lot of fashion in there. There's a lot. I have to mention it because they have a sequel coming out and I'm just so excited about it. And it's
I
a
am
lot
too.
of yeah. First of all, a lot of it takes place in New York City. Also, it's the eloquent verbiage. If you listen to what they're saying, as well as the whole culture. So I'm really excited, and as well as, like I mentioned, the fashion. So, and one thing is, I just want you to know is embedded in me. So that's why it difficult for me to go in that direction to develop a product that was in the fashion realm. So I developed a product called Beneath These, and it's actually an undergarment. It's not the compression type, it's a comfort type, and it actually looks like shorts. It's an opaque garment that, if you have on a short dress, especially, if you're vacationing, even if you have on a long dress or even pajamas or whatever, and you want privacy, it's eco-friendly, it provides comfort, it provides coverage, and that's the whole idea. And it comes in these beautiful colors so that you can coordinate them with your outfits. So beneath this is more than an underwear, it's a quiet confidence, and it's for all ages, because we believe that women deserve undergarments that feel like freedom, because they, like I said, not the compression, because we need a variety of undergarments. They're soft and they're secure and effortlessly empowering, because if you bend over, you don't have to worry about showing, private parts or anything, because they look like shorts. And like I said, they're opaque. Also, I would like to say our culture is rooted in comfort, privacy, and self-respect. Okay, because what's beneath it matters. And I will conclude it right there.
Thank you so much. So remember that what is
Yeah,
beneath matters.
that's
It
right.
holds everything up. So please go. Can you tell us, Dr. Gladys, how our audience can get their hands on some beneathies?
Absolutely. So you can either reach out to me on any social media platform. We actually have a page on Instagram as well as Facebook. And also our website is beneathies.com. So you can also order through Shopify as well. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, as you can see, family, we have women, we have members up here, the part of the team. Everyone has something that they're focused on, and we bring all of this to the table for the community. So, our idea really is to help you to develop on a personal level, get clothing right, get your swag on, and actually to get additional education, upskilling, training, strategic moves. All of this is available by joining the Happiness Tribe. Now, we're about to launch our website shortly. It's been a long time coming, and there's still tweaks that are taking place. However, we are excited about being able to offer membership, paid membership as well. There is upcoming webinars and training, and we are actually working on a project to do a youth hackathon in Ghana this year for the Festac. Miss Kim, could you just tell our audience real briefly what FESAC is and why it matters, not just for the African continent, but for those of us in the diaspora?
Thank you, Miss Paula. I've been a strong, hey, you need to clap hands for me. I am the new ambassador for Festac in Botswana.
Yay!
Well
Love
done,
it.
Miss Kim. Lovely.
Thank you. So, okay, Festac is
Sorry, I couldn't help myself. Go, Miss Kim.
so this is so Festac was formed specifically to market and showcase Africa. And showcasing Africa, that is from Cape to Cairo. Festac goes to different countries every year and hosts a 1 week event, which it's a business networking platform. It's a cultural exposing platform where we talk about our culture, our skills, and showcase our talent. We have a lot of Hollywood stars, Bollywood, Nollywood stars that go there and showcase their film. Artists go there with their paintings, there's music. It's so much fun. So this year it's going to be in Ghana. Last year it was in Kenya. The year before it was in Zanzibar. This is the fourth time, because the year before Kenya it was in Arusha in Tanzania, and the first year it was in Zanzibar. So Festac is a place to be, and you should all come. It's gonna be on the 22nd of September in Accra, Ghana. And the Happiness Tribe will be right there doing what we do best, upskilling. Don't miss this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, as we grow this community, we are really very intentional in in providing, seeking to provide things that'll help us grow both personally and professionally. So if what we're speaking about and what you've heard so far resonates with you, then reach out to us. Reach out on LinkedIn, Happiness Tribe, send us a message. Let us know that you're interested. If you have questions, if you'd like to join our discussions every Sunday for our podcast, reach out to us. This doesn't happen without you. This doesn't grow without you. So please come and join the family. Come find out what we're doing, what we have planned, and how we can grow together. We so appreciate it. We will save these last few minutes, we will save and we will discuss now what our takeaway is, not just from the discussion, but what we hope to accomplish this coming week. If you have someone that is blurring boundaries and are surpassing the boundaries that have been set, then you have a responsibility to reset those boundaries and to communicate them so that instead of creating distance, we're creating bridges into building long lasting relationships. We'll start with Miss Kim. No, we'll leave Miss Kim to last. That's our illustrious leader. So we'll let her close us out. We'll
Can I
start with
just,
yes, ma'am.
sorry, I just wanted to get, if I can get 1 minute to mention the messages we have from our
Yes,
audience.
go ahead, Miss Kim. Go ahead.
So we have Adrienne Castellon, very nice message. She says she's giving an example. She moderated a panel with a Muslim leader, and he respectfully sent a message prior that would not be able to shake hands, that we would not be able to shake hands. This was in Vancouver, BC, Canada, in November 2024.
Wow.
Yep,
It matters.
it does.
Those cultural awareness,
Yeah.
cultural intelligence is very important, audience. Go ahead, Miss Kim.
Then we have Dr. Kautam says, thank you for information today, teams. Then we have Annie Foster. She says, thank you, ladies. Really enjoying this event and learning from everyone. Each of us can learn from each other. Catchers is key to gaining knowledge.
And it
Then,
is, we agree.
yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Annie. Jibrin Baba, he says, thanks for sharing the words of motivation. Um, then we have Senzo Madiba. Ooh, I love your name. Great topic, especially in human leadership. I use clear guidelines and house rules to help new ones see the mutual benefits of applying them. That's quite good. Thank you. Thank you, Senzo. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate you all. And I'm only able to read messages from LinkedIn. So just know we appreciate you, those who have posted messages on YouTube or Facebook, and we will respond. And please tell us if you want to join us, if you want to come to the studio. We'll also drop the link for you to join, to know what it takes to join the Happiness Tribe community. Thank you.
Thank you so much. In addition to that, tell us where you're listening to us from. What platform did you hear this podcast or other podcasts? Tell us what part of the world that you're living. That's important. We'd like to know who our family members are, who's visiting, and why. And having said that, I'd like Sister Yoda, tell us what should we be focused on this week? Close us out. Sister Yoda, let us know what are your thoughts about our discussion so far and should we be focusing on during the week until next Sunday.
Thank you, Ms. Paula. I think what I wanted to do is just to emphasize a couple of points that we discussed about boundaries. And, on a personal level, my advice is to start young with your children. If you have children, with the young ones around you, in setting boundaries. It's never too early to start, really. And so, on a personal level, I think that will help in future to ensure that you are respected and the child that you're raising is also respected. At an institutional, organizational level, one of the things that I think is critical, and most organizations have inductions where they take newly recruited employees through a process so that they can understand what the organization is all about. I think it's absolutely critical to include a session on boundaries. And maybe you won't call it that, it may be contained within something else. But it's very important to emphasize to people who are newly who are coming into the organization for the first time, and it doesn't matter at what level, what the company will and will not tolerate when it comes to boundaries. This will make it easier for especially the young ones to understand that the company takes things like this seriously and will not tolerate abuse of any kind. So that is my 2 points that I think are I'd like for us to ponder on. How can we improve our environment, whether it's at home or in a working environment, to say how do we make people feel more comfortable and how do we address those issues that do not show up in policies and manuals. That's it from me. Thank you, Ms. Paula, for directing this conversation. It's been a very good one. You threw in some very interesting points. I hope we'll remember those for future podcasts, especially when it comes to when it comes to relationships within a marriage setting, and for those who don't get married and just in partnerships. But I think these are conversations that are important, and this is the one place where we can discuss it comfortably, because our intention really is to try and help other people live better lives, improved communication, so that you have joy and happiness in your lives. Thank you so much, everyone. Take good care until next week.
Thank you so much, Sister Yodit. And you said instead of using the word boundaries, what about rules of engagement? Because that's really what this is, right? Every company, even if you're an individual, establish some rules of engagement. What is acceptable, what is not, and what do you do about it when you have to confront these things? So that's one takeaway that we can utilize. Dr. Gladys, tell us, what is your takeaway from this today's discussion, and what should people keep in their minds throughout the week?
Well, I definitely agree with what Miss Yoda was saying about, definitely teaching our children young how to not cross boundaries and being respectful. It comes down to really being respectful. I do want to say that, I thought about, what I said with the situation I encountered with a colleague who entered my office. I'm not so sure how I could have dealt with it. I think that, to be honest with you, I think the end result would have probably been the same, whether I said something then or because all of a sudden it would have been all of them against me, that type of stuff. So I probably would have had the
Right.
same. So best to just address it in the beginning. But I would like to say you can start strengthening boundaries by actually practicing things like saying no, but kindly and clearly. However, I don't know, I think no, for some reason, doesn't always come across as being kind. I don't know, people just don't want to hear. I know, really, I don't know if there's a kind way to say no. I don't. I mean, can you just say, oh, no, or no? You understand what I'm saying? Either way, what about even pausing before responding to requests? You definitely want to take the time to think about it, and not commit to
Yes.
something, and also checking in on your feelings. I think that's another thing. And then, basically just setting limits on when and how you engage with others, So those are basically my suggestions, and that was my takeaway. It was a great conversation. That I hope that this will actually stimulate other people to have that conversation and even to review or evaluate how they deal with people, or like you said, the rules of engagement. So yes, thank you everybody for joining us, and I hope you join us in future conversations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gladys. Ladies, I so appreciate your contribution. Thank you all for keeping me, sane, for keeping me grounded, and for just staying in my rear end when I need foot up it. It's okay. I appreciate it so much. All of this makes me better. Miss Kim, you can take it. You have the mic, our leader. Tell us what we should be working on this week.
This is actually, I think subconsciously, I know we set up the tribe so we can support others and make them happy. But this has seems to be our fun, happy space. And thank you. The tribe wouldn't be what it is without each one of you. And our listeners as well, we value you, we appreciate you. We are onto something. We are onto something, and I can see that. And this is where you see humanity coming through, people from different walks of life. And I love it reading the messages. Everyone is in agreement. Yeah, there should be a different way of doing things. So my closing remark would be safeguard your peace. You need it. Because literally, when you set boundaries, You are just going like, I would choose me first, as you should always choose you. From employees that are getting harassed by their bosses, sometimes maybe your boss doesn't know that the boss is overstepping, to families, especially families. I think it's very critical with sometimes maybe how we treat our children. I think I've walked into my daughter's bedroom one day and she stormed on me like, you don't ever do this. And I apologized. Yeah. Knock. Wait, I mean that's her space. Respect it. As she should as well, not just storm into my bedroom. That's my private space. So thank you, thank you. We are learning, we've learned a lot, and we look forward to seeing you next Sunday, same time, same place. Enjoy the rest of the week and goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye now. Bye now.
Bye bye.